So here's a secret about content creators. Most of us love community-generated content. Not only does it give us a chance to involve fans in the videos in some way, but it also, well, it's a free idea. That's a big win-win. So when this message from HUUNSixteen or HUUNSixteen, I'm genuinely not sure, popped up on Discord, I knew what I had to do. Hey Chris, I was recently hotlapping in AC and was really happy with the lap I did. And I've been wondering for a while now how I, a budding teenage racing driver in real life with limited time to use my sims, compared to people like you who are extremely experienced. So I'd like to ask you to beat my time at Road Atlanta with the Ferrari F2004. Now, I'm far from being an alien, but when I put in a bit of practice, I can do a reasonable job of looking fairly competent. So I thought, let's give it a go. But not only that, let's turn this into something a little bit educational and put out a challenge to the community as well. Hello fellow sim racers. If you're watching this at the end of February or the beginning of March in 2020, then I'm busy looking after our newborn baby. I've pre-recorded some videos to keep the channel ticking over, and I really appreciate your continued support while I'm trying to remember what sleep felt like. Anyhow, on with the video. So let's take a look at our reference lap by Hun. I'm just going to call him that now for the rest of the video to save second guessing myself all the time. 60.82 seconds is what we're aiming for, and as you can see through the first couple of corners, there's a little bit of time being left on the board. He's pretty committed, he's flinging the car into the corners, but we're missing apexes and leaving a little bit of a time on the table by not maximising all of the track. Now, because this is a really short track layout, I'm going to show you an overhead view that will help really push home just where the time is being lost, and hopefully this can be reasonably educational for everyone watching. Now, I suspect Hun is running the default setup in Assetto Corsa, and as you can see, it actually hits VMAX quite early on in the straights. There are probably a few setup tweaks that can be done to find even more time, but that's well beyond the scope of this video. Now, as we come into the final couple of corners, very committed, but has to get off the power during the second part, which compromises the run out back towards the start-finish line, and gives us our time of 60.82 seconds to beat. Now let's take a look at the lap from above so we can see what's going on in a little bit more detail. Hun manages to get the car all the way over to the left for turn-in, which is a good start, but ends up turning in a little bit early and has to take a second bite of the steering to get into the apex. All the while he's also downshifted as well and ends up in the middle of the track by the time he's hit the end of the turn. Now for the entry to turn 2, he just about clips the grass on the edge of the curb, which unsettles the car and forces him to run wide and miss the apex for turn 3. This compromises the run all the way down through the S's towards turn 5. Turn 5 itself is pretty decent, but he could probably use a bit more curb on the inside to decrease the radius of the corner and maximise speed out onto the straight. He hasn't managed to get all the way over to the left-hand side for turn 6, misses the apex, and then leaves a bit of speed on the table, not tracking all the way out. Turn 7, on the other hand, is almost textbook. My braking point for turn 10 is absolutely identical, but I feel he's not using as much of the curb on the outside as he could, turning in a little early and catching the dirt on the inside of the curb face, which unsettles the car. And this causes him to have to blend the throttle out on the second part of the chicane, losing all-important speed down to the start-finish line. So, armed with all of that information and a little bit of practice, could I go out and beat that 60.82 second lap? I think what you'll see from this lap is, despite the fact that Road Atlanta is an incredibly fast and small circuit for a 2004 era Formula 1 car, the key very much is to try and be as smooth as possible. With Hun's lap, you could see that he was fighting the car across the curbs, trying to take quite a lot of the high curves in places, and that was unsettling the car a lot of the time. And I found very quickly that that wasn't the best approach, at least for my driving style. Now this lap is far from perfect, and if I'd had a bit more practice time, there were definitely some areas that I know I could improve. But the point of this really is to set a marker for you guys to go out and smash this time. Coming up to the end of the lap now and the tricky turn 10, and this was one of the areas I found hardest to maximise the time through in this car on this setup. As you can see, I left a little bit of time on the table on the left, could have got on the throttle a little bit earlier. But we make it across the finish line with a time of 58.9 seconds. So, in a sense of fairness to Hun, I'm going to put my lap through the same process and point out all of my mistakes. Managed to get the car well over to the left for turn 1, but there was a bit more space I could have used, and the same goes for the apex and the exit curb. All in all, I could have maybe carried another 5 or 6 kilometers an hour through turn 1. The next series of corners was probably about as good as I could have managed on the default setup, as there wasn't any more time to be found riding the curbs. At turn 5, I get a little bit greedy on the apex curb on the inside, and that unsettles the car and delays application of the throttle. Turn 6 was pretty textbook, but the run into turn 7 caused me to lock a wheel on the inside. I don't think it cost much time, but it's not something you can get away with lap after lap. I was pretty happy with the first part of the turn 10 chicane, but as you can see, in the right-hander I was a little bit slow getting onto the power, which leaves time on the table. And that pretty much rounds out a lap at Road Atlanta. So you've seen what I can do, and as you probably guessed, now it's over to you guys. Get out there and beat my time, and if possible post a video so HUUNSixteen, myself and the rest of the community can work out just where to find that little bit of extra time. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be great if you could hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can see more content like this in the future. So all that's left to say is goodbye, thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.